all people who are going to hire you care about. That's all they care about. They don't care if you got a sport management degree. They don't care if you got an engineering degree. They could care less. All they care about is this person that I'm going to hire, give a chance. Are they going to show up? Are they going to set goals for themselves? Are they going to put in the full effort? And are they going to get along with everybody?
Yeah.
That's it.
Welcome to Sports Business Unplugged, where the real game happens off the field. No fluff, no filters, just raw, uncut stories from the pros shaping the industry. Their journeys, their challenges, their passion, straight from the source. Let's talk sports business.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Sachs, and this is Sports Business Unplugged, where we bring you raw, unfiltered conversations with the people who make the sports industry move. From executives to agents to marketers and former athletes, we're diving into the stories that you don't usually hear. Today's guest has seen it all, massive deals, behind-the-scenes moments that have shaped sports as we know it, but what most people don't know are the struggles, the risks, and the moments of doubt that got him here. Today, we're going deep with the one and only Rob Thompson. How are you, Rob?
Fantastic. Yeah, life is good.
That's good. And for those of you that don't know, Rob has been in the sports industry for over 30 years. He's worked with organizations such as the NFL, Disney, multiple startups, and just some of the biggest brands in the world. But beyond that, he has stories, lots of good stories, the highs, the lows, and the real game behind the game. So thank you for being here. I'm just going to get right into it. So you've worked in the highest levels of sport business. Tell me about a time when everything was on the line and you had to make a game-changing decision.
Wow. I don't know if it was game changing decision about the business side of it. It was probably more game changing decisions about my life and my family and moving people. So there's going to be many times, in your career where you're going to be asked to either take a promotion and move or leave a job for a better opportunity and move. And you better choose wisely on who your partner is in life because if they're not on the same page as you are about your career trajectory, which does require moving if you're going to go work for somebody, that can be very, very challenging for a lot of people. I had an old mentor of mine who was a college football coach for 35 years, and every time we changed jobs, he got divorced and remarried. So he was married and divorced 5 times. So, he's lucky. I tell him, lucky you only had 5 jobs in your
Yeah.
30 something career. So it's all. I think that's the game changer is your personal life and your partner that you choose that's willing to kind of grow with you and have the same kind of same level of vision of how you're going to raise your children and where you're going to be and what that adventure in life is going to be like. So I have pirate blood in me, so I was always up for the adventure. My wife, she would have stayed in her hometown in one house her whole life, but I dragged her around. And looking back at it now, she has no regrets in the experiences of people that we met. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so right to our second question. So looking back at your journey, what's one decision you made that completely changed your career path, but at the time felt like a total gamble?
Oh man, probably at the time was leaving what I was leaving the NFL to go start an expansion arena football team in Albany, New York. So living in Connecticut, not too far from where wife and I grew up, family around us, and it was a huge gamble to go from the league into this arena football league. It would have been around for a while at the time. The NFL owned 51% of it. So it was sort of in the same ecosystem what I thought at the time. And we jumped up there, and 4 months later, 9/11 happened. And they shut the league down, and we didn't know what was going to happen after that. And we ended
Yeah.
up having to change the name of our team from the Albany Warbirds because I was driving down for a press conference to announce the name of the team, and we had commercials starting at 9 o'clock with planes dropping bombs on. Yeah, it's crazy. And
That's
we were in
crazy.
Albany. Yeah, so Albany was shut down because the first plane went over Albany, and we didn't know. But it led to one thing after another. Going up there, doing that, finally starting the team, getting it off the ground, going through two ownership groups, and then jumping over to the Walt Disney Company from there. And if I never went to Albany and did that, I would never have gone to work for the Walt Disney Company, which I spent a decade at. And my kids would never have grown up in a great town like Saratoga Springs, New York, and we never had that experience. So risk sometimes you got to be chasing something, not running away from anything. And I was chasing, kind of that dream of being
Yeah.
running an organization and working. I went from 5-on-5 NFL flag program, which we started back in 94, 95, to now going over to arena football, which was 8-on-8, another version of it. And so I kind of, saw this whole innovation and what was happening and taking a chance. I have no risk. I feel like I have no risk because I have dyslexia, and when you have dyslexia, you have your risk averse. My wife very much the opposite because we had to take kids out of school and all
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
it's a long answer to a simple question, but I think I needed to provide some context around it. So it was scary, but it worked out.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. It just shows that one thing leads to the other and everything's meant to
Always.
be. Yeah. All right. So next, I mean, you've been in the trenches of sports marketing, sponsorships, and business. What is one war story from the industry that people wouldn't believe?
A lot of it was, I mean, I was never the guy that was in Sports Business Journal or in the trades. I always say I was the offensive line coach in the sports industry.
Mm-hmm.
I was the guy in the trenches. I was the guy that no one knew his name.
Yeah. Yep.
But my relationships, when you're in it for so long, you kind of go in all at the same level, and your friends and your colleagues become kind of the big shots.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always able to navigate. I think, the biggest challenge, one of the biggest things I've ever faced, I think, when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
That was a massive, massive obviously, I think a lot of people probably went through similar in a different way when COVID happened and
Mm-hmm.
shutting down the teams and shutting down the leagues
Yep.
because you didn't know where the world was going. And same thing with
Yep.
9/11. It was a funky time for all of us that were around in business, especially if you worked out in New York City, and kind of recalibrating your life a little bit and kind of rethinking some things. Just like
Yeah.
COVID, the mass exit kind of went down to the southern states and Florida, and everybody was like, we're working remote. I don't want to do the grind anymore.
Yeah.
Right. We kind of saw that with 9/11 a little bit, because at least COVID still had sports. I mean, they just shut everything down and with 9/11 and you just didn't know. I think that was probably the biggest difference. And I think the younger generation, you guys lived through
Yeah.
COVID through high school and college, and the
Yeah.
disruption and right. It was really
Totally.
severe and it lasted way too long of a time. Where 9/11 kind of made you rethink a lot of things. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people that you saw that it was awful to go through. So was COVID in a lot of ways, but um, I think that those things, I think there's, I don't think we're out of that type of thing yet, ever happening again here in the States. And I think sports was the one thing that everybody held on to. And it was always a way to release kind of the ugliness of the world and bring it
Yeah.
back. Sports, music, but they all kind of go together. And so that part of it, I think, when the world seems ugly and nasty and things aren't going well, people lean back into that what
Yeah.
sports means to them emotionally. So, and in a lot of ways, it's so. Anyways, I think that was a big lesson, the ugliness of the side of the world and industry and business and life and all that. So,
Yeah. And you feel that during those ugly times, sports is one of those things that brings people together.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, college sports, high school sports, and pro sports with globally because you kind of take down your differences and like think about the Olympics, what the Olympics does, the pride that
Yep.
you have in your country, and just imagine multiplying that by, 1,000 during some of those downtimes. So you kind of
Yep.
reset yourself on your priorities, right? And you're like, wow,
Yeah.
you go through that again, man, it's okay. I feel blessed to be able to go to a baseball game, sit outside and drink beer and eat hot dogs for a couple
Yep.
hours, right? And okay, I feel blessed to be able to go to when the world opens back up, man, we could go back to a football game again. We don't have to wear a
Yep.
mask, right? And be uncomfortable. And you need to lean in on those kind of moments, that are when things are going really, really well. And sports is a way to
Mhm.
connect us all to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and I'm going to read you a quote that I have here. The top three most important things in business or life are what, Rob? Your network, network, and network. Can you expand for me a little bit on how Dorothy taught you a valuable lesson in networking, and also explain to the audience why that name means so much to you.
Yeah, so I had this unbelievable aunt. Yeah, so she taught me a lesson. She said it forever. Your network, network, network. Your most three valuable things. It's the same thing they say about real estate, right? Location, location,
Yeah.
location, and those two kind of go together. So I had this wonderful crazy aunt, and I want to call her crazy. She was just a she was just that woman, blue collar. She's a blue collar broad that just rips cigs and just said it like it was, an old school Irish woman from the Northeast. So if you kind of understand what that is, there's no filter, just a
Hmm.
loving of the life. Had a cocktail and a cigarette in her hand constantly, and she told great stories. And she was really tied in with the community, with politics, with youth sports. She supported high school sports in our community, and she never had kids, so I became kind of her kid, and we always lived like on the same street. So she was kind of
Yeah.
like a grandparent or another parent to me, and she would always have these big political parties and fundraisers at her house. And she was always the one that people called to raise funds because she was connected.
Hmm.
And she was connected because she pushed her weight around. She never asked anybody for anything. She was the connector. She brought people together, made them feel special, always a
Yep.
good time. And that was such a valuable lesson watching her do that, knowing that, hey, if you need something, right, you need something done, whether it was approval for, a permit to put a pool in your backyard, or if you need to kind of, throw your weight around, or if you need something else, you call on Dot. And she
Yep.
always got you to that person, right? Somehow she got things done. It was only because of her kindness and the value that she brought to other people constantly.
Hmm.
Always had people over our house for pool parties and Christmas, and just this random group of people constantly coming through her door. She would do these dinner parties every Friday night nonstop. Always.
Yep.
As long as she was in town, she had a dinner party with just a group, a mix of people. So I learned later on in life that you put some stakeholders together, whether if you're in business and it's a sponsor or a media partner or a community outreach partner, it doesn't matter. You put those groups of people together around the table and you close your mouth and you just let them introduce themselves and see the magic that happens. They start building relationships, and next thing you know, great things happen, right? You're not coming together and saying, hey, I got this package I'm going to sell you. You're bringing people together, showing them some value, and you just let the natural conversation go. That's your network, right? Your network is always about the value you bring to other people. It's so cliche now, but Aunt Dot knew it back in the 60s and 70s, and she was a master of it. And I learned a big lesson from her. So for me, that was always been my approach, in
Hmm.
business and life. And it
Yeah.
was natural because I watched other people do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And by the way, that quote was from this book, which I read, your book,
There you
Sports
go.
Dream Job Playbook. It's great.
Thank
It
you.
was a good read.
Yeah.
Another quote actually from the book is one one of those once in a lifetime characters who had an incredible impact on you both professionally and personally. Could if you could relive one moment with Tommy Groom, one
Oh, man.
conversation, one lesson, one experience that defines who he was to you, what would it be and why does it still resonate with you today?
Whew. Angela, you can make me cry in this one. So this guy, for those in the industry, especially if you're in college football, you know who Tommy Groom was. He was a legend, a recruiter, a guy that bounced around forever, and he's just a magical guy. And he had this saying when I was young. So I found him when I was in my late 20s working for the NFL, and he had this credibility. He was a gentleman from Charleston, West Virginia, Southern accent, looked just like Leslie Nielsen. He had these great sayings and this great view on life. And Tommy always, his famous line was, "You can no more do what you don't know to come back from where you ain't never been." And that's a quote in the book. And anybody that was around Tommy would always say, "Tommy, what's that quote you say?" And he would say it to me, whenever I was going down that road of being that kind of 20 something year old who I think I figured it out. Here I am thinking who I was working for the NFL, doing all these things with NFL flag and promoting the game and having him with me. And he always kind of calm me down. He would say, "You can no more do what you don't know to come back from where you ain't never been." Basically means you don't know anything. Like just experience life. Don't know what is going to happen if you've never been there before. Like if you haven't, it's easy to make fun or kind of talk about parents if you haven't been a parent. Like if you're in the
Hmm.
sports industry or you're a coach or you're an administrator, but you don't have any parents, but you're talking about how the people are parenting their kids, you shouldn't be talking about that. Like, or if you're just start working in an organization and you're kind of saying about your boss or the boss's boss, boy, we should be doing that. And you haven't been there before. Like you haven't earned it
Yep.
yet. So Tommy Groom taught me a valuable lesson in life of you can no more do what you don't know to come back from where you ain't never been. And it's a life lesson for everybody just starting off, especially if you're in your 20s. Like just settle down,
Yep.
experience life, get married or do your thing, have children, right? Do the things that you need to do to experience life and taking care of people and what you're here for, right? So
Hmm.
that's the biggest life lesson I ever had. Him and my aunt Dot, I wish they met because those two characters would have been like a freaking sitcom.
That would have been crazy.
Oh, would have been fantastic. She was long gone before he came in, but man, it would have been great.
He also said, the best place I've ever worked is wherever I'm at. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I used to because he was a college football coach. So he'd be at a place for 5 years, 8 years, 3 years. And I asked him one time, and I was just trying to figure this whole thing out, and I said, Tommy, where was the best place? Where was the best school and the best place you ever coached? He looked over at me with that southern grin, and he just said, wherever I was at, that was the best place. And I think people lose track of that because they're always focused on that next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. Tommy was a guy, you hear the saying, be where your feet are. No one focused more in life and where he was at that moment was Tommy. It was an incredible gift. And he focused on the people around him. He focused on the moment. And he always said, if you go into it with that attitude, this is the best place I ever been. Now he says, now the wives might not have thought that, but I thought it. And when you say it all the time, he would always say, keep the fires burning. And inside, he may have been like, oh man, a little struggle. But externally, he's a leader. He was a coach. He was a mentor. When you come into a situation, you're negative. This place stinks, right? Oh, the very, I don't make enough money. I don't know this. Leave. It's over. Like, stop. It's done. Like, make it the best place you've ever been is right now, right? You decided to work there. You decided to start that business. You chose that college. Make it the best because it doesn't ever change. Every place you'll ever be will always have an issue. There's always going
Yep.
to be something, right? Life is about 20%. 20% of your day is going to be incredible. 80% is going to be challenging. And you know what?
Yep.
That's what God intended to be. That's what life is. There's one big challenge. So make it the best place you ever was and ever are right now. And that's the secret to it. That's the secret to your career. No one likes a negative Nancy. No one likes someone that gossips, right? Those people that gossip that are negative never grow in a company. They never become the vice presidents. They never become the leaders. They never become the supervisors, right? They just have to go on to the next
Hmm.
job and take their negativity with them. And they'll fool people for a little while because they're smart and they say the right thing or they look good in a suit, right?
Yep.
And they look the part, and then all of a sudden you start peeling back the layers, and you're like, oh, this person's just negative, right? They're just
Yep.
they're just too arrogant. They're negative. They don't want to work for it. Make it the best place.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned everywhere you go, there's always going to be an issue. Have you personally ever had a moment where everything that could go wrong did go wrong? And how did you handle it?
Oh, many times. I handle it because I learned about it being a college athlete and a pro athlete. Things go wrong
Mm-hmm.
all the time. That's why you got the next play. That's why you
Mm-hmm.
get the next quarter. That's why you get the next timeout. Things you learn as a college athlete is to overcome those challenges, and it's baked in you. Yeah, that play stunk or that series stunk or whatever. We lost that game. Guess what? Tomorrow, 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 tomorrow. Let's go,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And you learn it in life. I made so many mistakes. I had so many things, but I also had enough wins, right?
Yep.
So you have enough wins. You have enough wins as a player, as a coach. You have enough wins in business. You know that's going to come back around. You're going to get your stroke. You're going to get your time. You're going to meet that person, So yeah, there's been a lot of things that, man, I thought this was a layup. I thought we'd beat a certain team. We're going to walk in
Yep.
there and beat them. We had it in college. We went in and beat the number one team in the country. We came back and beat a team that only won one game. This was towards the end of the season. Not only did they beat us, they killed us like by 50 points, right? So like sometimes it's just not fair. Sometimes you're not ready for it, right? Sometimes it's like, man, I thought I had this whole thing lined up and it didn't work out. Like I was the perfect person for that job. No, you weren't. All right. I
Yep.
should have been. I should have done this, and this should happen. It's not your turn, right? Yeah, things happen. So yeah, yeah. I think if you go on with that mindset of it's you get a job because the stars align for you. You meet certain people in your life, like this conversation and how we met. It's for a reason. You have to
Yep.
kind of dig into
Yeah.
why do we get connected, right?
Yeah.
What is it that's going to be there for us, like, and it could be just this right here and that's it, but this could put the wheels in motion for your next thing that you're building, Andrew, right? So it's
Yep.
those moments. There's a Tommy Groom that came into my life. Luckily I recognized that this guy's special, and I latched onto him, and he took me for a ride for a good 10
Yep.
years, right?
Yep.
So those are the things that I think if you keep your eyes open on that. And I know it's kind of off the subject of what you asked me, but it kind of
Yeah.
falls into it and it closes the loop. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Do you feel that winning is impossible without failure?
No, I think you recognize the pain a lot more when you do lose,
Yeah.
and you,
Yeah.
man, getting that win. And
Yeah.
the only thing that I found to replace sports for a win, that kind of that when you're the underdog and you knock it off,
Yep.
you knock that big team off or whatever, is sales and business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing better than getting that big sales done or that big client. It doesn't last very long. It's a very shorter kind of victory because it may last just that evening. Whereas a big win sometimes will take you a couple days to get down from that cloud,
Yep.
and with sales and business is now the next thing is, oh God, now we got to deliver. Like we got the big client,
Yeah.
but now we got to make sure that it happens and they're happy and the blah blah blah. Then you're like, oh, you go into panic mode. Like, oh, do we have everything organized? Are we really doing what we're doing? So, and I hope everything goes right. But it's the only thing that I have found in my life and my career that actually replaces that winning feeling of this, that
Wow.
satisfaction of victory. We
Yes.
did something together. Yeah. So that's why I think so many entrepreneurs and so many people in the industry come from a sports background because you have that
Yep.
DNA in you already. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. The grit makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could sit down with 25-year-old Rob Thompson and give him one
Yeah.
warning and one piece of encouragement, what would you say?
Really understand money. Understand and respect money. Don't be afraid to say no and ask for more. And then understand at an early age, you have to put whatever you have to work. So whether that is in the stock market or whether that's a K, whether that's investing in what's trending right now in real estate, you got to put it to work.
Yep.
Don't buy things that are that you can't afford just because you think you want to impress people. You're right. So live below your means into your piece. And then by the time you hit 40, you want to be able to have enough money to say no to people. You want to be able to have enough
Mm-hmm.
money to um, tell people to go away. You want to have enough money to, if I really don't like it here, I could jump out and have money for another couple of years to, if I just wanted to take a year or two off and figure out what's next or write a book or whatever. You'll be able to do that in your 40s if you don't overspend in your 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Get a roommate if you have to. Don't buy the big car that you want. Don't worry about going on benders down to Vegas. Don't gamble. Don't drink as much. Just take care of your body because you're going to need it when you get to my age. And my age now, I'm at the point where now I'm starting to think about, you know,
Yeah.
all right, things are going to start breaking down on this engine, right? And just those are the things that I wish I took more time to focus in on.
Mm-hmm.
Like just don't stop working out. Don't stop lifting weights. Don't ever stop any of those things. And for me, yeah, you just don't. Stay, do all the things you did as an athlete as through your life, and it just your life will be so much easier when you're in shape. People look at you differently when you're in shape, right? They respect you more when you're
Yep.
in shape, right? So
For sure.
this is for everybody. Just stay in shape. Like you don't have to be freaking ripped. Just stay in shape, and it definitely will be an effect on your career if you're not. And optics matters. It's unfair. It's horrible. It's. You don't think people are that shadow, but we all are. It's just a reality of it, you know.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And when you mentioned having enough money to say no to people, I don't know if you're referring to this, but there's a good quote in the movie The Gambler. I'm not going to say it on here because it's a little
that's
inappropriate,
it.
but that's
That's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah, that's a you guys should check that out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, you've had an incredible career, but if it all disappeared tomorrow, what's the one moment or achievement you'd be most proud of?
Oh, that's a great question. I think being part of the one, because I think it came full circle, is being a part of the team that and kind of creating a lot of the rules and coaching and officiating manuals for the NFL Flag League when it first started. And now of seeing it where it is 30 years later, I'm very, very proud of being a part of that. And just wasn't me; it was a bunch of people. But being kind of the me and Tommy kind of being on the ground, starting the league, starting the teams globally, and traveling all over the world to do it. Especially Thailand and Korea and Japan and Singapore. I mean, those were incredible times, and knowing that we were part of such a movement 30 years later, now it's going to be an Olympic sport, and girls have their own varsity and college leagues and teams now, and they can compete in Olympic sport as a female in football, regardless of what style you're playing, whether it's 5v5 or 7-on-7 or 8-on-8 like arena football. I'm very, very proud of that accomplishment. Again, I'm the guy behind the scenes that no one knew about, me and Tommy, that really did it. And Tom LeNave is another one that were around it for this long. So there's a lot of people out there that are involved in it now, but they're not the ones that started it. So Scott Lancaster really was the name behind it. And he thankfully brought me in, Shola Winley, Lynn Donano. There's a lot of great people involved in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mike Stoker that we did internationally on the other side. So those people went on to have incredible careers in the industry too. But we were the behind the scenes people. And I hope
Yeah.
maybe we can have a reunion out in LA in 2018 and have a cheers of all the things that we were able to accomplish, so long ago. So that's definitely a high moment.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you mentioned the moment where the 9/11 attack happened, but besides that, what do you think is one of the most surreal moments of your career? One of those like I can't believe this is happening moments.
There's so many of them. There's just so many of them. Incredible people that I think that it really comes down to the people that we met. Not just with the NFL. I think on the Walt Disney side of it was very important. I think with the NFL, you work for the NFL, you work for a team or a league, and your dad's not the owner. You feel incredibly blessed to be there.
Yep.
It's like, how could I hold on? Because I work for such a great place and I'm so lucky to be involved in this. And, you work your way up, and all of us that kind of went through it, everybody had their own entrance. There are some people that, had family and relatives and stuff that got into the job. And there's other ones that kind of snuck in, or snuck in by kind of really sacrificing to be involved and kind of working our way through it. So the blessing that you felt from that, but the company that brought me, I think, some of the proudest moments I've had, because there was such an obligation, responsibility to it, was working for the Walt Disney Company because of the emotional attachment that people globally have. Not everybody's a football fan, but the majority of people are somewhat Disney fans, whether it's the music,
Yep.
the parks, the cruises, the movies that are so ingrained in part of our lives. And the obligation that you have when you tell somebody that you work for the Walt Disney Company, they look at you different, right? There's this level of character that you have to, a level of kind of, important, not importance, but professionalism that you have to have and that you have to show. And if you're not in it, I always say, I had an HR partner, they call them there. And when we were hiring people, she would always say, remember, Rob, there's a lot of talented people out there. Find the nice ones.
Hmm.
She would always say that there's a lot of talented, smart people. Find the nice ones, find the kind ones. Those are the ones you want. and the whole the if that's the core of what you're doing and bringing to life those emotions and experiences. So for me, that rounded out my whole career was having that stop there. And it was a decade stop. Um, Having that stop there, working across all the different business units of the Walt Disney Company, and knowing that every single person that you met, for the most part, was just an unbelievably talented, nice person.
Yeah.
So what they stood for as a company, regardless of what your views are now on them, it's still at the end of the day an incredible company. We felt even more blessed to have worked for them.
Yeah.
Working for those two companies for 20 years out of the 30, I mean, it was two-thirds of my career. There's a lot of experiences and there was a lot of moments, a lot of people that I was very, very, very blessed and blessed to have in my life then and still in my life now. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and then go into some rapid fire questions. So, first one here, who was your childhood sports hero?
Roger Staubach. Yeah, Roger
Okay.
Staubach. It was Roger Staubach and kind of Micah Ruzioni, right? Because I grew up, I was in the 70s. So, I was a Dallas Cowboys, Roger Staubach, and then watching the U.S. team win the Winter Olympics at Lake Placid in the game before as well. I think it was against Sweden. I think it was Sweden, and then it beat the Russians. Maybe it was
Yeah.
reverse. I don't remember. But those two were my absolute heroes growing up.
Okay. Yeah. What about favorite Disneyland slash Disney World ride?
Hands down, Pirates. Pirates of the
Why?
Caribbean, walking in and
Because
smelling
of
the
the smell?
yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, exactly right. It's the pirate water, man. You walk in, you smell
Yeah.
that pirate water. It's a game changer.
Yep. Okay. What about favorite sports movie of all time?
I love Rudy. Yeah, I love Rudy. I know most of it's made up, but I love what it stood for, that walk-on mentality and what you could do if you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
And I love the message, and I just love the whole thing about it.
Okay. Coffee or energy drink?
Coffee.
If you weren't in sports, what would you be doing?
Probably real estate. Yeah, probably real estate. I really enjoyed that whole process of real estate too. I have a couple rental properties and so I kind of enjoy it. Yeah, yeah. I think everybody needs a place to live, and if you can give somebody a clean, safe, really nice place to live, I think there's some value. There's a lot of value in that.
For sure. What's one thing you always have to travel with?
My headphones, my Bose, that the noise
Yeah.
cancellation because I can't stand listen to people's conversations on a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
Sneakers or dress shoes?
sneakers.
Favorite stadium or arena you've ever been to?
Man, I love Tampa. I love Tampa. Stadium for a football game and in like November, December, I just love that whole thing there. Wrigley Field is pretty special. So is
Yeah.
Fenway. Those two. I used to work across the street from Fenway at Who's On First. It was a bar when I was coaching up at Boston University, and you spend Wednesday nights there pouring drinks, and it was good. It was good. Pouring shots and drinking beers. Yeah, it was fun.
What's one word your closest friends would use to describe you?
Creative.
Creative.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to wrap it up here, I mean, this has been a super informative, incredible conversation. I really appreciate your time and your insights, your journey, the lessons. But before we wrap it up, I just want to ask one final question. You've seen so many people chase this industry. Some make it, some don't make it. What to you separates the people who succeed from the ones who fade out? And what advice would you give to young people trying to break into the industry?
If you could sell, if you're creative and you could sell and you could put people together, more importantly, if you could sell, you'll always have a job in the industry, right? If you can sell sponsorship, you can sell tickets, you can sell media, you could sell VIP experiences. You'll always have a job in the industry if you're willing to sacrifice and kind of work your way up. I think anybody who's coming in, I'd say just say yes. It may not be that job that you think is going to be the job that you imagine with your dream team or your dream league. It could be working for an agency or a sports tech startup, or it could be volunteering at the local YMCA or Park Rec. You're always going to meet somebody who's going to help you, regardless of how big or little you think the opportunity is, or how embarrassing it may sound, and you think it doesn't fit into your head. Don't worry about the optics of it. Chase the people, not the logo, right? If you really feel like someone that can help you earlier on, you can discover what you don't want to do long before you figure out a career that you
Yeah.
love and a career path that you love. So you got to try everything, right? If it
Yeah.
feels right, So don't get hung up on I got to go work for a certain team, or league. Just go after the right people you feel like that could help you discover what that next thing is for you. So that would be the best advice I could. And if you can learn how to sell and truly respect sales, and if you think about sales as a way to provide others with a great experience, not I don't want to make another phone call, not that I don't want to, you're right, I got to send out another email. I'm helping people have an experience that's attached to something that I love. I love working for this team, the minor league baseball team. I want to provide you with the best experience for you and your family that you can walk through, and I'm passionate about that part of it. And I want to make sure that from beginning to end that you're going to love your experience with us here at this game.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that you continue to engage with us and you continue to come back. And if that's your approach, not I'm going to make 100 calls to get one person, get that one person. That one person is going to introduce you to 10 people. And if you have that approach in sales, and unfortunately most colleges and business schools don't teach sales, right? And the top line of every business is what? Is sales. But yet higher ed doesn't teach it. So that at some point, if you had a college that just taught you sales, that college would win in the long run for a good majority of kids because that's what's important. Nobody who's hiring you cares where you went to school unless you went to the same college. No one cares what you studied. Nobody cares what your background is. No one really cares what you look like, right? Are you going to show up that day, right? And every single day and put in your full effort, be nice to people, get along, set goals, right? And that you're going to put it in the work. That's all people who are going to hire you care about. That's all they care about. They don't care if you got a sport management degree. They don't care if you got an engineering degree. They could care less. All they care about is this person that I'm going to hire, give a chance. Are they going to show up? Are they going to set goals for themselves? Are they going to put in the full effort? And are they going to get along with everybody?
Yep.
That's it. And if you can figure out how to do that and make that impression on the person who's hiring you, you're going to win. Other than that,
Yep.
go do something else. So there you go.
I think that's a great way to end it off. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing all this. Where can people connect with you if they want to follow you or reach out?
Yeah, so you can go on to you could reach out to me and go to my website gameplanu.org. That's gameplan, just the letter u.org. And there's ways to connect with me there and get on my schedule and all that other good stuff. So there's tells you a little bit about what I'm up to right now. So there you have it.
Okay, and that's it for this episode of SBU. If you guys enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, follow the Instagram, TikTok, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We got plenty more amazing guests, so stay tuned. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.